Good morning, everyone. My name is Manvi Srivastav, and let us take a look at the news today from the lens of prelims and mains of UPSC exam. The first news we have to read about is about the Viksit Bharat GRM Act 2025, and it has some key policy updates that we need to take a look at. What is the Viksit Bharat GRM Act? The Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission. This is the GRM Act, and it is Grameen, focusing on the rural sector. Now, VBG Ramji, this is also related to the same thing that we will read later because there are a lot of short forms and abbreviations that we need to take a look at and they are all connected somehow. Now, VBG Ramji or Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission came into force across rural India on 1st of July 2026 and it replaced the 2-decade-old, 20 years old Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005, that is MG Narega, which was launched in 2005. Now, as a summary, when we have to read this issue, the summary of the issue is that VBG Ramji Act 2025 replaced the MG Narega with a structural rural employment framework, focuses on employment in the rural sector, and it expands guaranteed employment to 125 days, which is the highlight of it. It also promotes durable rural infrastructure, climate resilience, digital governance, and Gram Panchayat led planning aligned with the Viksit Bharat Act 2047 goal. Now, while this act modernizes rural employment, it has also raised some concerns over the six-fold increase in state's financial burden. It increases the burden of state by six-fold when it comes to the finances. Dilution of the demand-driven right to work, because the right to work was first demand-driven and now it is supply-driven. There is a centralization of governance, there is digital exclusion, and there are some unresolved NG-Narega dues that highlight the need for a stronger cooperative federalism and implementation safeguards. Now let us read further in this in detail. Let us take a quick overview. The Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission Grameen Act came into force on 1st of July 2026 and it replaced MG Narega of 2005. What does it do? It provides a statutory guarantee of wage employment to eligible rural households and it links employment generation with durable rural asset creation. This is very important. Employment is being generated. Moreover, it is linked with rural asset creation. And all these lead towards the goal of Viksit Bharat by the year 2047. Now, predecessors. Let's talk about the predecessors of this. Before this, as we have noticed, there was MG Narega, which ran for almost 2 decades and it was launched in 2005. Next thing, a few other programs are Rural Manpower Program. You might be able to learn this. You might be able to write this in your mains exam and it might increase your marks. Rural Manpower Program in 1960s. Jawahar Rojgar Yojana in 1993. Sampurna Grameen Yojana in 1999. And then there was another scheme that you might know, Crash Scheme for Rural Employment in 1971, but that is very old. Then again, the pioneer scheme that we need to remember is Maharashtra Employment Guarantee Act. It was in 1977. Now, this first introduced the statutory right to work. It laid the foundation of the MG Narega of 2005, and this MG Narega later on provided a nationwide legal guarantee for rural employment. So, this laid the foundation, hence, it is called the pioneer. There are a few focus areas that this act, the VBG Ramji Act, it places Gram Panchayats at the center of rural transformation. There will be rural transformation, rural asset and infrastructure creation, and Gram Sabha will be at the Gram Panchayat, will be at the center of it, and it will emphasize durable asset creations in rural sector. Natural resource management will be there, water conservation will be there, and women empowerment will also happen through self-help groups. Now let us take a quick look at the key features of the Act. First feature we talk about is the enhanced income security. The guaranteed work has increased from 100 to 125 days. This is now very important. 125 days of guaranteed work per financial year. It is for households volunteering for unskilled manual work. Now, this entitlement has been expanded from 100 to 125 days, which is a key fact that you cannot forget. Every news article is covering this. This is very key takeaway. Second thing is about a minimum wage floor. Let us talk about the minimum wage floor. there was a nationwide wage floor which was an average of 298 point something. But now even the minimum wage floor has been 300 per day, which has increased the nationwide average because of this 300 per day. So this now has a minimum wage floor. Again, there is weekly wage payment, and the maximum delay that can be done is 14 days. Another important thing is that there is 60-day pause. 60-day pause. And when is the pause? When it is needed the most, during the sowing and harvesting seasons. In these seasons, the laborers go back to their homes. They sow rice, they harvest wheat. There's food and agrarian based economy in India through which unskilled labor also branches out. So these people are not just unskilled laborers, they also have farmland of their own, they also work on farmlands of others. So this 60-day pause caters to that. Again, when we talk about the minimum wage floor, the nationwide minimum wage for 300 per day has been introduced, and it ensures that no state wage falls below this. This is the minimum. No state can decrease the wages below this. Again, when we talk about the timelines, to enforce the fiscal accountability and income stability, this timeline has been imposed. The daily wages must be dispersed weekly, which is very important. You have to understand that they must be dispersed weekly and within a statutory ceiling maximum of 14 days after the work has been performed. Now, identification has been changed. There's new form of identification. All the workers will be issued the Grameen Rozgar Guarantee cards. The Grameen Rozgar Guarantee cards. So existing eKYC verified job cards will remain. They will remain valid during the transition period to this new card, and this will ensure this uninterrupted access to work. They will not be deprived of the old or the new card between the transition. Then again, there is a revised funding ratio. This becomes very important now. Let us talk about the revised funding ratio. The funding ratio has been completely revised. Now, moving away from MG Narega's 100% central wage coverage, this new act mandates 60 is to 40, that is center is to state, 60 is taken care by the center and 40 by the state. 60 is to 40 centers to state funding split for normal states. However, the center still bears 90% for the northeastern Himalayan states and UTs with legislatures. Okay, please comment in the comment section which are the UTs with legislatures. This is question number 1 that you have to answer. Uh, However, the center bears 100% for UTs without legislation. Again, now the next point we come to is normative resource allocation. The traditional demand-driven funding model is replaced. The funding model which was demand-driven, it is being replaced from a top-down normative allocation, where the center sets state-wise expenditure ceilings based on the 16th Finance Commission's horizontal devolution recommendations. Now let us look about at 4 priority strategic verticals. Also, there are 4 priority strategic verticals that might be mentioned here. This is the first priority, that is water security. Let us talk about water security first. This involves water conservation and management works to address India's water stress. Second is core rural infrastructure. It will focus on the basic village level infrastructure. We talk about rural asset and infrastructure creation. This is what is focusing on it. It is for connectivity and services to be easily accessible. Next is livelihood infrastructures. The infrastructure will not just be core rural infrastructures, they will also support livelihoods, assets that directly support rural income generation and enterprise. And the last will be climate resilience. All this work that we do through this scheme, VG Ramji scheme, will focus on climate resilience as well. It will be sustainable. Now, integration with PM Gati Shakti is a very important thing that has come up, which is new also. Now, this planning is bottom up through localized Viksit Gram Panchayat plans. There will be Gram Panchayat plans, and these will be especially integrated with national systems like PM Gati Shakti for infrastructure creation. And this will prevent the fragmented asset creation. It will be very streamlined and organized. Again, there is unified digital asset mapping also. So every asset that will be developed under this scheme, it will be aggregated to Viksit Bharat National Rural Infrastructure Stack. Write it down, Viksit Bharat National Rural Infrastructure Stack. So every asset developed under this will be aggregated into this stack, and it will ensure a centralized and coordinated national development monitoring framework. Now, what are the drawbacks of MG Narega that we have seen, and why this new scheme actually came up? What are the things and drawbacks of MG Narega that it has changed? Now, when we talk about MG Narega, there was fragmented asset creation. What do we mean by fragmented asset creation? Works were often very scattered, different pockets of work, and this limited the creation of durable and productive rural infrastructure. Now let's talk about farm labor or agricultural labor shortage. Now this was demand driven. The demand driven nature of the scheme sometimes reduced labor availability, and there was no availability but there was demand. And this mostly happened during the peak sowing season and the harvesting season, because the economy of that unskilled labor, the majority of those unskilled laborers are still dependent on their agrarian income. Next were wage delays. There were delays in fund release, and there were administrative bottlenecks, and these all frequently caused late wage payments. The wage payments were late. Now the wage payments have to be within 7 days and maximum ceiling of 14 days. Then there was leakages and irregularities. There were ghost beneficiaries. There were fake rolls. There was funding misappropriation. There were poor quality assets, and uh, all of this actually affected implementation. There was fiscal uncertainty also. The demand driven funding model, it actually led to unpredictable expenditures. Nobody could guess the expenditure already. So there was accumulation of pending dues also. MG Narega has a lot of pending dues. We will also take a look at the number. Now, what is the rationale for bringing this new act, VBG Ramji Act? First is the changing rural economy. There's declining poverty. We need to decline the poverty, diversify the livelihoods, and there is improved digital connectivity. All of these things combinedly caused us this necessity that we make all these reforms to MG Narega, and align it after the reforms with the Viksit Bharat goal of 2047. What about the focused assets? We talked about assets being created in different pockets and being very scattered and unstructured. But this time we create focused assets, and we prioritize these four pillars that we talked about, which are water security, infrastructure, climate resilience, and then there was another pillar which was uh, actually another type of infrastructure, two types of infrastructures. First were the core rural infrastructures, and the second were livelihood related infrastructures. Okay, these were the focused asset creation. Now we have a focus of creating these assets that are being created by the unskilled laborers. Now, another thing that is important is that after all of this, it is being linked with the PM Gati Shakti. PM Gati Shakti. What will it help with? It will help with streamlined and coordinated asset creation. And the assets that will be created this way will be very durable. Again, the VPG Ramji Act of 2025, it modernizes the rural employment, and it strengthens accountability. It aligns employment generation with the long-term infrastructure development goals, and it also aligns it with climate resilience. These are a few important things: employment, long-term infrastructure creation, accountability, and climate resilience. Again, every scheme, every policy comes with a few concerns, and there is a way forward that we can actually always think of to improve on these concerns. So what are the key concerns when it comes to VBG Ramji Act? The first key concern that I can think of is the higher state burden. At first it was 100% central, now there is 60 to 40 funding. What is there? 60 to 40 funding. There's a six-fold increase in the state's financial burdens. So there's 60%, 60 to 40 funding pattern. It is projected to increase the state's financial burden up to 6 times, and this raising concern over the cooperative federalism and pressure on state finances is another emerging problem that I can see in this scheme, and you can also analyze it. Again, the next one is allocation equity. The normative formula may reduce funds for better performing states. What does it mean? So there is normative allocation based on the 16th Finance Commission devolution formula. And after this formula, it may reduce allocations for the states which have better demographic performance. The better you perform, the less the allocation. So this seems kind of unfair. Okay, and it raises equity concerns also. Again, another concern is right to work. The right to work might be weakened somehow after this scheme. This act actually replaces the demand driven model of MG Narega with a predetermined budget ceiling. And when the budget ceiling is predetermined, there can be a legal problem with right to work. It can turn it into something weak, like bargaining power of rural labor. So this might also happen. This is a possibility. So again, highlight this in the comment section. I want you to write down, how do you think that this new scheme, which is now more of supply driven than demand driven work, how will this impact the right to work? Right, maximum 4 or 5 sentences, but this will be a great practice for you. Again, what about the 60-day pause? It might sound good on paper, but this may hurt the workers during drought or crop failure. What if they go for agrarian labor and the crops fail? What if there is drought and they have no income? No income here, no income in the agrarian fields. How will they survive then? So this mandatory 60-day work suspension, this compulsory pause during the sowing and harvesting season, it may deprive rural workers of income during drought, crop failure, irregular monsoons, etc. Next is centralization of governance. This is also somehow problematic because the greater union control over the planning and finances, it can weaken Gram Sabha's autonomy and the spirit of the 73rd constitutional amendment, which talks about grassroots democracy. Now, again, this is what I was talking about, the pending dues. This is very, very, very important. The pending dues. Let me circle this with a red pen. MG Narega has 17,000 crore of pending dues. These still remain unresolved. Think about it. Take a moment and think. This is the amount of due that is pending. This includes unpaid wages and this includes different things. It remains unresolved. Now, this raises concerns about how can we implement a new act without clearing the past liabilities. Now, what is the way forward? How can we actually improve on this going forward? Let us look at this. There's a graded transition. What is a graded transition? Slow transition, not a sudden transition. A graded transition with a fiscal this should be cooperative. Sorry, fiscal, no, this is right. Fiscal compensation mechanism for high demand states. The states which have high demand should not get less allocation. There should not be a problem with the devolution of funds. There should not be that dilemma that if you're performing better, if your demographic is doing well, that you will get less help. So there should be fiscal compensation mechanism. The center should actually adopt a graded transition path to mitigate the impact of the new funding model that we have come up with. This fiscal compensation mechanism or this dedicated devolution bonus through the 16th Finance Commission, it should be instituted actually. It should be there on paper so that it can be followed. It will reward the states with their high labor demand and efficient implementation of this scheme, and then there will be a less north-south asymmetry of funding. Again, then there should be something like retaining 100% central funding for wages and 75:25 ratio for material costs. These are some important aspects that we can think about. Whenever you think innovatively about a problem, you will always arrive on solutions. In the future, you are going to be administrators, policymakers. So these things are very critical to your thinking. And again, the decision of the 60-day pause, this should be left over the Gram Sabhas. Let the Gram Sabhas decide because they know their members better. So they know when they need the 60-day pause, what is the right time for it. And every Gram Sabha is a small pocket and it governs a small area. So localized weather conditions and localized agroclimatic conditions should be kept in mind while taking the 60-day pause. Also, again, create a national contingency buffer fund. What do we mean by a national contingency buffer fund? Now, this means that in case there is, um, how do we explain this? Now, this is about the rights-based framework. This is more focusing on the rights to ensure that the normative allocation that we have talked about, it does not turn the statutory right to work into a budgetary ceiling. There should be a national contingency buffer fund. So if an economic shock or a climate disaster pushes the labor demand beyond the normative budget, if there is more demand, than we actually focus it on as compared to the supply, if there's way more demand, then there should be a buffer fund. This buffer will automatically trigger this open-ended demand-driven funding also to prevent the exclusion errors. Again, a very important point that we should look at: permit offline authentication where KYC biometrics fail. This is a very important thing because oftentimes there is a digital divide, there's no last mile connectivity, KYC biometrics fail. People are not aware of how to do it, there's no proper knowledge about it. So there's this small pocket of people whom the world is completely ignoring, and they have been deprived of their digital education. So if in case the KYC and the biometrics and the eKYC fail, there should be a permission for offline authentication as well, which is a very innovative approach towards the problem. Codify an independent social audit directorate also. This can also be done. So this must be codified with the rules to ensure that the bottom up accountability is done and there's elimination of bureaucratic centralization. Next, we're coming to, now there's another very concerning news about strengthening food safety in India. There have been large scale food poisoning incidents that have exposed the gaps in the implementation of FSS Act 2006, Food Safety and Standards Act of 2006. The gap was there for food safety, but because of the food poisoning incidents, the gaps have been completely exposed. The scale of the challenge is very significant. There is an ADSI report. What is the ADSI report? Let us circle this and look more at this. ADSI report is the Accidental Deaths and Suicides report. This is a part of the NCRB data. The NCRB data is the National Crime Records Bureau data, which actually focuses on the number of deaths. Now, in these deaths, there are some deaths that are accidental deaths and suicide. Now, in these accidental deaths, we also talk about deaths caused by food poisoning. And when we look at that data, there are 1122 deaths due to food poisoning in India in 2024. While WHO estimates the unsafe food causes 866 million illnesses and 1.5 million deaths globally each other, all because of food poisoning. This was the data from the ADSI report of 2024. And children under the age of 5 bear 30% of the disease burden. 30% of this food poisoning disease affects the children under the age of 5. India ranks 15th. Keep in mind the rank of India here. India ki rank is 15th globally in the world. India is in 15th, on the 15th number in years of life lost due to foodborne diseases, due to diseases caused by food. Let us look at the next slide. There are food safety key concerns. First is the State Food Safety Index. Nearly 75% of states or union territories is scored below 50 in the below 50 out of 100, that is less than 50% in 2023 and 2024 in the State Food Safety Index. Three-fourths of the states have scored less than 50% in this index. The poor performers are Jharkhand, which has scored only 26.5%, and Uttar Pradesh, which has scored only 44.25%. Then there is an inspection and manpower gap. The Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, FSSAI, has less than 50%, which is around 40% central vacancies. This is the amount of central vacancies. These positions have not been filled. These are still vacant. Over 1,200 food safety officer posts are vacant nationally. Maharashtra needs 1,100 food safety officers, but only 130 are in field. Imagine the amount of vacancies that we have to face right now in this sector. If these vacancies were filled, the standards would have been procedurally followed. There would have been monitoring, but these vacancies and manpower gap cause a huge difference in the food safety standards of India. Chemical hazards and alteration. There's rising arsenic in rice. Please note this down. There's rise of arsenic in rice, lead in spices, antibiotic misuse in dairy, antibiotic misuse in dairy. This is very common. This causes antibi this causes microbial resistance, AMR. Food adulteration, this is also another important thing, which is causing arsenic in rice, lead in spices, and antibiotic misuse in dairy, fake milk, fake rice, fake cabbage. Food adulteration, like adulterating the quality of food by adding something to it or changing something to it. Especially in the dairy and edible oils, it has become a parallel economy. It is a thriving economy on its own. Then there's a misleading market and hygiene. FSSAI acted in 2025 to 26 against false claims like 100% natural. They already took an action against this. If a company is claiming false claims like 100% natural and there's something artificial, FSSAI last year did act on it, but it is still there in the market. Heat waves. Again, heat waves also impact the quality of food. They accelerate the bacterial growth. How can this be prevented? By proper storage. But again, there is no proper storage. There is weak cold chain. Our cold chains are weak, less interconnected, less controlled, poor hygiene, and all these causes the spread of salmonella, which is a pathogen, and E. coli, again a pathogen. These cause diseases, salmonella and E. coli. Let us take a look at the institutional framework and measures in place regarding the food safety. If we look at the institutional framework, there's FSSAI that we have, Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. It is the apex statutory body, that is the topmost under this act, under the FSS Act of 2006 that we initially read about. This works under MOHFW, that is Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. FSSAI under which ministry? Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. What are the key initiatives? Number one is Eat Right India. We have all heard of it. State Food Safety Index, in which Jharkhand and UP have performed really poorly. There's RUCO, reuse of cooking oil, repurposed used cooking oil. It also has a lot of carcinogens. Carcinogens are things that cause cancer. Then there is Food Safety Mitra. Food Safety Mitra. All of these are key initiatives, and still we have such gaps in food standards and quality. The states enforce through food safety commissioners, designated officers, and food safety officers. What are the measures to strengthen safety? First should be the turnover linked penalties. What do we mean by the turnover linked penalties? That bigger the company's turnover, bigger should be the penalty on the company. This will ensure that big companies actually do not deceive the consumers and perform better. Turnover linked penalties and district level food safety tribunals. Internet of Thing enabled cold chains. The cold chains, as we talked about, are not properly established, and the heat waves, because of the poor cold chain and the poor storage facilities, cause a lot of pathogen buildup like bacteria, E. coli, like salmonella, and these things cause toxin release in the food, and this causes diseases. So, if our cold chains are well controlled, these are actually eliminated. These causes of food safety concerns will be eliminated. So if we use Internet of Things to control the cold chains, this factor could easily be eliminated. So Internet of Things enable cold chains with temperature or humidity sensors. Third will be link FSSAI compliance with PM Swanidhi digital credit card. Now PM Swanidhi digital credit card focuses on the providing loans to small vendors. So if small vendors will be provided loan, but before that, FSSAI compliance will be checked. If these two things get linked, even the small vendors will follow the standards. And if turnover linked penalties come up, then even the big companies will follow the standards. So we are focusing on two different things at the same time. Then again, the farm to fork dashboard, there should be a dashboard of how your food comes from farm to the fork to the plate. And it should track the amount of pesticides and the insecticides and the fertilizers and the antibiotic use at each step. So that after keeping a track of this, it can be analyzed whether the food is safe for consumption or not. There should be a mandate on front of pack warning labels. Warning labels should not be hidden at the back of the pack. Like cigarettes have warning labels in such a manner. Food that has gone through excessive processing should also have warning labels, and these warning labels should have different kind of indicators like red, amber, and green, indicating different levels of food safety. Again, there should be a launch of a food watch app for geotag citizen complaints. Whenever the citizens complain, they should be able to do so on a food watch app, and that app should be geotagged so as to assess which area more complaints are coming from, so that it can be taken care of. Let us move on to the next slide. Ease of living, key government initiatives. Between 2014 and 2016, India's inclusive progress focused on improving ease of living through better access to housing, cleaning fuel, drinking water, sanitation, electricity, financial inclusion, transport connectivity, and digital governance. These are the things whose access the ease of living focuses on. What does it improve? Housing, clean fuel, drinking water, sanitation, electricity, financial inclusion, transport connectivity, and digital governance. Uh, PM PM Awas Yojana urban houses. When we talk about PM Awas Yojana urban houses, this scheme has this scheme when we talk about PM Awas Yojana urban, it has achieved so much. It was launched in 2015. It was launched to provide Pakka houses to eligible urban households. It serves the economically weaker section, the lower income groups, and the middle income groups across all of the urban area. So, similarly, PM Awas Yojana 2.0 was launched in 2024. It provides financial assistance of around 2.5 lakh, up to 2.5 lakh, which is the maximum ceiling each, under the beneficiary led construction vertical. This scheme also requires a female family member to be the owner or the co-owner. You have to note these points down. The reason I'm not noting is so that I can have more engagement in this session. You can type it in the comments, you can note it in your notepads, but do engage with the session so that you can retain it properly. So since its inception, this Awas Yojana, we're talking about the urban one, 1.2 crore houses it has created. How many houses it has created? 1.25 crore. And this is something we are only talking about housing right now. All these different verticals will be talking about later. PM Awas Yojana Urban has till now created 1.25 crore plus houses, and it has sanctioned 98 lakh plus complete sanctions with female ownership required under PM Awas Yojana 2.0. The female ownership factor came under 2.0 version of this scheme. Then the next one we have Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Grameen. This was launched in 2016. When was it launched? Again, let me write it for you. 2015. I'm sorry about the writing. My pen tab is not working. This one is 2016. When was this launched? 2016. Okay, this was launched in 2016. It provides assistance of 1.20 lakh per house in plain areas and 1.30 lakh in hilly and difficult terrains. So between 2016 and 2026, this had a target of 3.98 crore houses. 3.91 crore were sanctioned and 3.05 were completed. 3.9 crore were sanctioned and 3.05 were completed, and the target was 3.98 crore houses. So around 75% of sanctioned houses are owned by women or they are held in joint ownership and the women are involved in that ownership. So these houses are also linked with basic amenities like toilet, drinking water, electricity connection. And how to do that? They converge with all the other government programs. Now another one is this LPG connection. When we talk about clean fuel, this is what we're talking about. Clean fuel. When we talk about clean fuel, we talk about PMUY. That is the PM Ujjwala Yojana. Now, when was this launched? This was launched in May 2016, and it expanded the access to clean LPG connections and transformed the rural cooking practices. It reduced the dependence on traditional biomass fuels, and it improved the dignity, health, convenience, and all the factors for rural women especially. So till now, the initial target was 8 crore by September 2019. Okay, but it also followed by Ujjwala 2.0, and till now it has achieved the initial target of 8 crore, but over 10.57 crore clean cooking gas connections have been provided also. And then we get this number as well, 10.57 crore cooking connections as compared to the initial target of 8 crores. When the Ujjwala 2.0 came in, it actually helped the number increase. Next, we're talking about Jal Jeevan households, or Jal Jeevan mission actually. The goal was Har Ghar Jal, right? That quality tap water should actually reach every house. It was launched in 2019 and the goal was Har Ghar Jal. It expanded the rural tap water access also. Now, let us look at the next slide. When we talk about power, let us talk about the power. When we talk about power for all, the installed capacity was 248 gigawatts and it has more than doubled. It is now 532 gigawatts plus. Imagine, this is the power capacity increase. How good we are doing in terms of power. There is growth of clean energy also. The solar capacity, when we talk about, it has increased from 2.82 gigawatts to 150.26 gigawatts. The rural power supply has increased from 12.5 hours a day to 22.6 hours a day. Saubhagya scheme, you remember the Saubhagya scheme, Pradhan Mantri Sahaj Bijli Har Ghar Yojana? It was launched in 2017. 2017. Which scheme? Saubhagya scheme. Let me mark. Okay. Saubhagya scheme has electrified around 2.86 crore houses. Ujjwala Yojana has covered the distribution of 37 crore LED bulbs. It saves around 19,000 crore in annual household savings. This is the impact of actually using all these schemes for the goal, that is power for all. Then we'll talk about sanitation and some financial inclusion. When we talk about sanitation, we talk about Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin. The rural sanitation has improved from 39% to 100%. There are 5.69 plus open defecation free plus villages. ODF plus villages are 5.69 lakh plus. When we talk about Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin, this is this data. When we talk about Swachh Bharat Mission Urban, this is the data. The urban waste processing has increased from 16% to 82%. This is more than 5 times. This is very important data. These are the data points that you could use in your mains exam, in your answer writing, in your essay writing as well. When we talk about financial inclusion, the PM Jan Dhan accounts came into being, and the accounts 14.72 crores to 58 crore plus. This has been the jump in the Jan Dhan accounts. The deposits have crossed 3 lakh crores. When we talk about DBT or direct benefit transfer, 6.9 lakh crore has been credited under 327 schemes. When we talk about PM Mudra Yojana, PM Mudra, 57.7 crore plus loans have been given, worth 40 lakh crore to 66% to women. This is very important. A lot of questions regarding women and youth empowerment are in trend for the past 5 years, and this is very important for your mains examination. Next, when we talk about transport, connectivity, and governance reforms, there are roads and highways. The network has reached 63.73 lakh kilometers. We are the second largest globally in terms of road and highway connectivity network. The national highways have grown from 91,000 something to 1,46,572 kilometers. The Bharatmala project has completed around 22,590 kilometers. When we talk about railway modernization, the electrification of railway has been almost completely done. The electrification has reached 99.6%. The train accidents have decreased from 135 accidents from the year 2014-15 to barely 16 accidents in the year 2025-26. The Vande Bharat especially helped in expanding the services. It has expanded 162 services. Now, when we talk about civil aviation and metro, which also a part of connectivity and transport, the airports grew from 75 to 165. The Udan scheme, Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, it carried 1.64 crore passengers. The metro network has expanded from 248 crores in 5 cities to 1,155 kilometers in 26 cities. We have the third largest globally the third largest metro network India has. When we talk about governance reforms, the Jan Vishwas Act 2026 has decriminalized 717 provisions across 79 acts, which was actually very redundant. The CP Grams has resolved nearly 6 lakh grievances. In the comment section, I want you to type the full form of CP Grams also. Now, the UN Sustainable Development Report of 2026 has been released, and India has ranked 94th out of 167 countries in the 2026 UN Sustainable Development Goals Index. It has achieved its highest ever position, and the overall score is 68.3 out of 100. According to this report, which has been released by UN Sustainable Development Network (SDSN), UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network. Sustainable Development Solutions Network, SDSN. So let us mark the important points in it. First is the rank, 94 out of 167 countries. Score, 68.3 out of 100. It has risen 18 places. 18 places. Imagine the growth. Now, globally, the report has been off track. Globally, none of the 17 SDGs are on track to be achieved by 2030. Only about 16.5% of individual SDG targets are progressing on track, and nearly half of these are making only marginal progress, and 15% has been actively reversing. So the top performance when we talk about are again the Nordic countries. They still continue to lead the top ranks. Finland has secured the top spot. It followed closely by Sweden and Denmark. And at the bottom of the index are Chad, the Central African Republic, and the South Sudan. This is because of the conflict and the instability. Let us mark these also. Important things that none of the 17 SDGs are on track. 16.5 targets are on track. Only this targets, not the goals. 15% have even reversed, and the top performance are again the Nordic countries, Finland, Sweden, and Denmark. The most stagnant is SDG 2, 11, 14, 15, and 16. What are these SDGs? SDG 2 is zero hunger. SDG 11 is sustainable cities. SDG 14 is life below water. SDG 15 is life on land. And SDG 16 is peace, justice, and strong institutions for all. These are the 5 goals that are the most stagnant. In fact, the first is zero hunger, SDG 2. In the comment section, I want you to list how many SDGs there are and what are the goals of each SDG. What is each sustainable development goal? Okay. There are actually 17 sustainable development goals, and they can be learned very easily through mnemonics, which we will do in later sessions. Again, India's per capita CO2 is 2.21 tons. So SDG 12 and 13 are also deteriorating. The press freedom score has declined. When we talk about India, SDGs were adopted in 2015, and India since then has climbed 18 places. How much? 18 places. This is the rise in India's performance, which is actually very remarkable. 18 places. Earlier, the place was 112th. Since 2015, it has shown this significant improvement. Again, only 33% of India's SDG targets are on track, and 24% have worsened. However, this is much better performing than other countries' performance. When we talk about zero hunger, that is SDG 2, zero hunger still remains India's most pressing challenge. The progress is very stagnating. Child wasting has risen to 19%, child stunting has risen to 29.3%, which is also again in the severe category. Child wasting is 19, it is the highest in any country globally. This is the highest in India. Then we talk about undernourishment. Undernourishment is how much? 12%, still rising. All of these have grown. So these are still major challenges. Zero hunger is still a major challenge in India. The success rates when we talk about the success areas, electricity access and mobile broadband and internet use is again a success area. This is where we are successing. Let us proceed to the next slide now. SDG background and India's domestic architecture. When we talk about the SDG background, the Sustainable Development Goals are 17 interconnected goals with 169 targets. How many goals? 17 goals and 169 targets. And they were adopted by 193 UN member states in 2015 under the 2030 agenda, aiming for peace, prosperity, and sustainable development. What are they aiming for? Peace, prosperity, and sustainable development. These are the 3 aims. It was adopted in 2015. How have they come into being? So the concept of sustainable development was actually defined in 1987 by the United Nations Brundtland Commission. Which one? 1987 United Nations Brundtland Commission. Okay. This was followed in 2000 by Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, that is Millennium Development Goals. This happened in the Johannesburg and then in the Johannesburg Declaration, that is the Rio Plus 10, 2002, and then the Rio Summit of 2012. We haven't mentioned. Have we mentioned? Yes, we have mentioned. Rio Summit of 2012, Johannesburg Declaration of 2002, Brundtland Commission, MDGs 2000. Okay, and then finally 2015 SDGs came into being. This is the entire sequence. The sequence is very small and very easy to remember. So the first is 1987 Brundtland, then is 2000's MDGs, then 2002 Johannesburg Declaration, or Rio plus 2 or Rio plus 10, and then in 2012 it is Rio plus 20, and then in 2015 we have SDGs. The core principle of SDGs are based on universality, integration, leave no one behind, multi-stakeholder participation, and periodic monitoring through the Global Sustainable Development Report. There's this report called the Global Sustainable Development Report. Now, when we talk about India's domestic SDG architecture, we have to talk about Niti Aayog also. Niti Aayog maintains the SDG India Index. When the UN SDSN was released, it releases the global index. At the same time, Niti Aayog is the nodal agency for monitoring the SDGs in India. Niti Aayog is the nodal agency for SDG implementation also through the SDG India Index and the dashboard. And it promotes the cooperative and competitive federalism. Then we have to talk about MOSP. Okay, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation also. What does it do? It tracks the progress of India through the National Indicator Framework. Which framework? National Indicator Framework. Let us note this down. National Indicator Framework. Now, this framework has 277 indicators. It is supported by Data for Development Coordination Forum, which is not that important, in partnership with Niti Aayog and with the UN Resident Coordinator Office. So, this is very coordinated data. Okay, and these indicators are hence formed. Again, we have to also focus on Ministry of Panchayati Raj. Why Ministry of Panchayati Raj? Why going at the grassroots level? Because grassroots level is the basis of our entire democracy, our entire administration, our entire legislature, and even when it comes to the economy. So, what does Ministry of Panchayati Raj do? It localizes the sustainable development goal. It brings it to the bottom also. Implementation at the base level. Local SDGs are then at the bottom. They are localized through 9 thematic themes. There are 9 thematic themes under it. It is not just Hawa mein. It is actually on paper. There are 9 different themes. The local indicator framework also exists. There's the Panchayati Advancement Index also that exists. And these assess over 2.5 lakh gram panchayats in India over a 100-point scale. So they also get assessed. Okay. This was all about the SDG. Now the next news is related to Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. Now, this Yojana has completed 10 years of advancing irrigation-led agricultural transformation in India. So, what are the key facts about this Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana? Number one, it was launched in 2015. When was it launched? 2015. What kind of Yojana is this? Centrally sponsored scheme. Centrally sponsored scheme. And it is classified as a core scheme. Also classified as a core scheme. The sharing on this scheme is actually 60-40% for most states, and for the northeastern and Himalayan state it is 90%, 90 to 10, and for union territories it is all central funding, that is 100%. This is the nature of centrally sponsored schemes. Again, this was launched in 2015, which is a very important thing. Why was it launched? It aimed at expanding assured irrigation, improved water use efficiency, and promote water waste conservation. It was approved for 2021-2026 with an outlay of 93,068.58 crores, out of which 6587 crores allocated to union budget. Formulated by merging different schemes, there are different schemes that have been merged to formulate it, which we will talk about right now. First of all, it was formed by 3 schemes. First is AIBP, that is Accelerated Irrigation Benefits Program. Let me just quickly mark it. AIBP, that is Accelerated Irrigation Benefits Program. Second is Har Khet Ko Pani. Okay, Har Khet Ko Pani. Third is Per Drop More Crop. Okay, this is not very correct, but I will tell you. Watershed development also. There are 3 different schemes. First is AIBP, Accelerated Irrigation Benefit Program. Second one is River Development and Ganga Rejuvenation. I will write it for you. Wait. AIBP. Okay, my writing is very bad. I would recommend you guys to write it. I don't have a pen tab today. Pen tab will be here tomorrow. First is AIBP, that is Accelerated Irrigation Benefit Program. It is under Ministry of Water Resources or Jal Shakti again. Second is River Development and Ganga Rejuvenation. It is now Ministry of Jal Shakti again. Third is Integrated Watershed Management Program of the Department of Land Resources under the Ministry of Rural Development, and on-farm water management of the Department of Agriculture and Cooperation. So when all of these were amalgamated, combined together, the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana came into being. Now, what is the core? What is the core approach? The core approach is that it focuses on Jal Sanchay. Jal Sanchay means rainwater storage. Okay, Jal Sanchay means rainwater storage, and Jal Sinchan, that is effective water application. This approach aims to ensure that available water resources are stored properly and then distributed and used efficiently at the farm level. Again, when we talk about the implementation mechanism, the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana is implemented in a very decentralized manner through the state irrigation plans and the district irrigation plans. And these plans help achieve this convergence of irrigation investment at the field level and ensure the location specific water use planning. Again, when we talk about funding and outlay, coming back to this, the government has approved the continuation of this scheme even further with an overall outlay of 93.6856 crores, and in the union budget 6,587 crores have been allocated, okay, for expanding irrigation, improving water use efficiency, promoting sustainable water management, and other things. So what are the major components of this? Okay, we forgot to do the major components. The major components, as I told about, accelerated irrigation benefit program, Har Khet Ko Pani, watershed development, per drop more crop. Okay, these are the major components of it. Next one, we will talk about the Project Unicorn. That is India and Japan's first ever joint defense co-development. What is it called? The Project Unicorn. Please note this down. This is a very small news. It might not seem as important now, but as a filler news content, it can be asked. Normally, it just can be asked as a single line. So, at the 16th India Japan Annual Summit in New Delhi, India and Japan announced their first ever joint defense co development project. This is a defense project. It is being co developed jointly. It manufactures the Unicorn, that is Unified Complex Radio Antenna Mast for the Indian Navy. Unified Complex Radio Antenna Mast. This is Unicorn. Okay. So for this, for the Navy, this is being manufactured. For whom it is being manufactured? I must have written it somewhere. Okay, it is being manufactured for the Navy jointly by India and Japan. Now, this development follows the signing of MOI actually, Memorandum of Implementation between India and Japan in Tokyo in 2024. It was signed, and now it has been followed by this new development. And we have been, this is not something that we just thought of. This has been going on for quite some time. In 2024, we signed an agreement, that is Memorandum of Implementation. So this agreement is particularly significant because it makes India the second Asian country after Philippines. Second Asian country after Philippines to receive the Japanese defense technology. No other country in Asia has received the Japanese defense technology other than Philippines and India right now. Now, what is the Unicorn mast? So, this is an advanced state-of-art system designed to integrate multiple communication systems and scattered antenna into a single unified radar mast. Okay, it will unify all these. By consolidating numerous exposed antennas, the Unicorn mast will significantly reduce the warship radar cross section. Now, this structural integration vastly improves the stealth characteristic. It will improve the stealth of the ship. This is the core of the summary of everything. It will improve the stealth of the ships, and it will also improve the tactical evasion capabilities of naval platform. It will be able to evade the attacks. Okay, so there is stealth advantage, which is basic. There's joint development of this, and then there is make in India. Japan will provide the design expertise and it will be made in India. Japan will contribute the advanced design expertise and India will handle the system integration and the production. And then this mast will be installed on the future Indian Navy warships, and it will strengthen the indigenous defense and manufacturing capabilities. So the Unicorn mast will gradually replace the Indian Navy's existing mast, that is the Advanced Composite Communication System, which is ACCS. This is an external communication infrastructure. Okay, this will be replaced by the Unicorn mast, and it enhances secure communication so that there can be security. Nobody else can hear the communication. Enhance security. There'll be reduced radar signatures. Nobody will leave their signs behind that, okay, we were here, this is the path we were following. And there will be superior communication capability also, making it better suited to the digitally congested environment for the modern naval warfare that is ongoing every other day. Now we hear it in news. And so this is very significant for our Indo-Pacific rules-based region. Now, let us talk about the Kisan Sarthi platform. The Kisan Sarthi marks a step in digital agriculture. It integrates the farmer advisories the expert supports, and the weather updates and the market prices and all these schematic informations on one platform. So Kisan Sarthi platform does that, integrates everything. So it was launched in July 2021, and it is the largest integrated digital agro advisory platform. What is it? Agro advisory, advices based on advices for agriculture. It is digital and it is integrated. All this information is integrated. It is India's integrated digital agro-advisory platform. When you read something big like this, break it down small. It is a platform. What kind of platform? Advisory. What kind of advice? Agriculture related advice. What kind of advice on this platform? It is mostly digital, almost completely digital actually. And this is has integrated information, and this is made by India. This is being used by India also. Who made this? It is the joint initiative of METI, that is Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, and the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. Okay, it is implemented by IASRI. Please type the full form of IASRI in the comment section so I can know that you are still in the session. The implementation by the sorry, Indian Agricultural Statistics Research Institute and the Digital India Corporation.